Thank you for joining. This is Doug Borcherding. I'm a partner with Meridian Business. We're an Oracle NetSuite solution provider, and this is our continuing series of NetSuite partner spotlights. Today, we welcome Tom Wilson from Netstock. We've worked with Netstock at several locations with their demand planning and MRP platform. Tom is going to take you through a series of materials to overview the Netstock capabilities and solutions. The way we're set up here, Tom's driving, so I'm going to ask him to advance the slide and tell you a little bit more about NetSuite. We're a reseller of the NetSuite solution set and a business consulting firm, experts in all phases of ERP, from the pre-sales mode to the implementation of the NetSuite solution. But NetSuite is but part of the total package and journey in some cases, which is the focus of these partner solutions. From time to time and month over month, we introduce folks to different solutions. This month, as we said, is Netstock. Next month, I think, is Cloud 360's recurring billing solution, and we'll highlight that toward the end. So we have different areas of focus week over week. But with no further ado, I do want to turn it over to Tom and let him introduce Netstock and himself and get rolling. We'll run for about 40 minutes, and I would invite you, if you have questions, to go ahead and enter those in the chat field in the sidebar of the virtual meeting here. So, Tom, I'll turn it over to you, and
right.
glad to have you join us. You bet.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Hey, so as Doug said, my name is Tom Wilson. I work for Netstock, and I'm a solution consultant. So it's my privilege to introduce you to Netstock and our inventory planning and optimization solution. And let me just start with, what are some of the challenges that we see our customers facing when it comes to inventory planning? And what we see and what we hear from our customers repeatedly is that we stock out of items that result in poor customer service, lost sales, and distributed production. But other items are in excess, which ties up working capital. And in a time of high interest rates and difficult credit, it's important to free up that capital. Planners spend too much time determining stocking and replenishment levels with manual reports and spreadsheets that are time-consuming, hard to maintain, and are inaccurate. And it's hard to determine stocking levels without a projection or forecast of demand. So the inventory challenges are addressed on the previous slide often stem from poor planning. Usually finance is pushing to hold less inventory, get excess down, and stock turns up. But sales and marketing wants to hold more stock in order to prevent lost sales. And then whoever is doing the ordering and the planning has to try and find a balance between these two goals with no clear outline on how to do this. So financially, you need a strategy that identifies each item's importance and velocity. And from a sales perspective, you need a replenishment policy that invests more in items that contribute higher value and replenishes more frequently for those items that turn faster. This needs to be dynamically adjusted, though, based on risks that suppliers don't deliver on time or deliver the right quantity, and customers don't always buy what you forecasted. So without a policy modeling platform based on risk, it's impossible to understand the appropriate level of stock you need to hold to support a desired sales plan. How do you create a replenishment plan that satisfies both finance and sales and ensures that operations merely executes the plan and doesn't have to resolve conflict? Well, a fundamental tenet is to identify each item's contribution to your business and map it to the appropriate replenishment policies. So one of the fundamental tenets in Netstock is that we use what's called classification. And we will load data from NetSuite, and then along with some rules that you set up in Netstock, Netstock will rank every item based on its value to your business as either an A, B, or a C item. And that's the rows that you see. So the top row, those are your A items, the middle row are your B items, and the bottom rows are your C items. But then we'll also rank the same item based on its inventory turns or velocity. And we'll rank it as high, medium, or low, which are the columns. So if you look at those boxes in the upper right, the green ones, those are the items that contribute the most and turn the fastest. And what that means is you want to set more aggressive replenishment policies for those items. You don't ever want to run out of an A item that's high turning. Now, it doesn't mean that you want to run out of a C item that's low turning, but you cannot afford to put the same amount of inventory investment into those items. So you'll be able to set up different policies. So for instance, for an A item that's high turning, you want to set a more aggressive target fill rate, which is when you need an item, you've anticipated it and have it in stock. And by putting a higher policy on it, that's going to drive a little larger investment in safety stock. But why do you need a planning tool when you have a really good ERP system? And NetSuite is a fantastic ERP solution. But from an inventory perspective, no ERP was designed to, it was designed to look at transactions. It's going to look at what are your stocking locations, what's currently in stock at each of those locations, who are your suppliers, what are your lead times. It keeps track of thousands of transactions, hundreds of details, and you need a system to keep track of that much information about your inventory. But ERP was never designed to answer the question, is that what should be in stock? Given demand for the items, given lead time from suppliers, given supplier performance against that lead time, given the item's importance to your business, what should you be stocking? When should you replenish? And most of our customers have had to make those decisions outside of ERP, usually in some kind of a manual process, more often than not a spreadsheet. And it is a daunting task. It takes a lot of time to build and maintain a spreadsheet. You've got to get data from your ERP, and that spreadsheet is typically rife with errors. Our customers tell us they tend to stock out, which could impact customer service and sales. They tell us they tend to overstock, which could impact which has money tied up in working capital, and it just takes a lot of time. And that's what Netstock brings to the table. We do not replace anything in your ERP. In fact, we need all of that data on the right that's in purple as input to our planning process. We need to know what are your stocking locations, what is currently in stock at those locations, who are your suppliers, what are your lead times. We need to keep track of your open purchase orders, sales orders, work orders if you do any assembly or kitting, but we know exactly where to get that data from NetSuite. So Netstock is deployed as a cloud delivered service. And Netstock will set up your instance of Netstock on a Netstock server, and then we'll set up a connector through the internet to your NetSuite server. Now that connection is highly secure. The data is encrypted. There's keys on both ends. Your instance of Netstock is unique to you. Only you have access to it. But part of the implementation is we will set up an automatic job. And typically that runs once a day. Or once a day, we'll connect to NetSuite. We've pre-mapped all the data that we need, the fields that we need, and we will load that in. Now, the reason it's once a day is most of our customers plan their inventory in a 24-hour window. Now, we have a few customers that refresh more frequently, and you can set that up automatically. We even have some customers that only refresh once a week. But the vast majority of our customers set up an automatic job, runs once a day. We'll connect to NetSuite, we'll upload the data we need, and disconnect. Then all of that data will go into your instance of Netstock, where it'll go through a series of analytics and calculations, but all done on the Netstock server. So this has no impact to NetSuite. So then anyone that you want to have log into Netstock can. All you need is a browser. It can be any browser, Internet Explorer, Safari, Chrome, Microsoft Edge, any device that supports a browser, where you will be presented with planning recommendations. So what Netstock is designed to do is first and foremost, increase the visibility to your inventory. It's going to show you what your current inventory is, recommend what it should be. And in doing so, you'll be able to identify where you have too much inventory, where you don't have enough. But what that's going to do is improve your fill rate. And again, what that means is when you need an item, you have already anticipated it and have it in stock. And what most of our customers have told us when they turn this on is of their existing inventory, typically up to 15% of that is in some kind of a stocked out status. You're out of an item, you're about to run out of an item that could impact customer service or sales. Over 35% of existing inventory is in some kind of an excess status. You have money tied up in working capital. And roughly half to 70% of a planner's time is not necessarily spent making planning decisions, but pulling together data, running reports, and analyzing that information. So this will never replace your knowledge or your expertise, but it will replace those manual tools, reports, and spreadsheets with something much more robust and automated. So you can spend your valuable time not maintaining spreadsheets and downloading data, but dealing with the items that need your attention. And then finally, it's pretty hard to determine what your inventory stocking level should be unless you can project or forecast your demand. So we have a very robust forecast engine. We also introduced a more advanced engine for those customers that need a little more horsepower, if you will. And I'll showcase that as we go through the discussion as well. But if you can save time, if you can eliminate that excess inventory and free up that working capital, and if you can eliminate stockouts, which will improve customer service, again, the return on investment of a planning tool like this can be quite substantial. So that's a quick introduction. So we're a planning tool. We get our data automatically from NetSuite. We will use that then to recommend inventory stocking and replenishment levels. But when you log into Netstock as a browser user, what you log into is what we call a dashboard. And a dashboard is a high-level summary, a summary of all the inventory at this stocking location. Now, you can have one or many stocking locations. It just depends on what you have set up in NetSuite, but we will recommend what to stock at each location. Now, the idea of the dashboard is to show you what your current inventory is, recommend what it should be, and in doing so, by loading this, you'll be able to see where your inventory is, where you have too much, not enough. And it's laid out in several panels. Now, the first panel is called Stock Holding, and it shows that right now, according to NetSuite, you are carrying $10.3 million of inventory at your cost. Now, the planning tool is highly scalable. We have customers with less than $100,000 of inventory planning. We've got customers with over 200 million. My demo database happens to have about 10, just to give you a feel for the scale. But right now you're carrying 10.3 million, but the planning tool is recommending you should be carrying 4.9. That would be the optimal inventory, given demand for the items, given lead time from the suppliers, given supplier performance against that lead time. That would be the optimal inventory to fulfill your demand. Now we can see how your inventory has been trending since the first time we loaded data. So we are trending in the right direction. I can see my actual inventory, how it's been trending. I can see my recommended inventory and how it's been trending, the gray line. But with just a quick glance, I can see that I've got quite a bit more inventory than the planning tool is recommending. In fact, if I slide over to the next panel, you have some excess stock at this stocking location. In fact, you have over 2,000 items that are in excess, and just the value of that excess inventory is costing your business $3.6 million. Now, you can get a report. If I hover, I can click and I can see a list of all 2,000 items. I can filter, sort those items. But out of all those items, we're trying to bring to your attention on the dashboard those items that have the biggest impact to your business. And right now, these 5 items are the 5 that are contributing the most to your excess problem. These 5 items alone are costing you $260,000 in excess inventory. Almost 10% of your entire excess problem is not 2,000 items. It's these 5. So if you don't do anything else on a daily or weekly basis, you might want to at least keep your eye on all of these lists on the dashboard. And in the case of excess, as you burn it down, you'll see a new list of 5, and you can start to work that excess inventory out of your business. But if you notice the item on the top, the one that's costing you $98,000 in excess inventory, it is a C item that is low turning. So it's one of the least important items to your business. Yet it's the one costing you the most. So it's probably a pretty good candidate to take some proactive action and burn down. But that's where you have too much inventory right now. Let's move over to the next panel because I want to give you a more proactive heads up. Here are some orders: purchase orders for supplied items, work orders for manufactured or kitted items. But these are orders in NetSuite, and we are projecting that when those orders arrive, they're going to add an additional 2.5 million to your excess problem. There are 499 items with an order that are going to add to that excess problem. And the idea would be if you can identify those orders you don't need, cancel or delay them, you can deal with it proactively before it physically arrives and becomes excess inventory. So you're ahead of the game. So these first 2 panels are bringing to your attention where you have too much inventory. Now, right below that is the opposite. Are there any items you don't have enough of? And right now, there's some items that you are completely out of in Los Angeles. In fact, there are 967 items with no inventory. But there is demand on those items. and you cannot fulfill that demand until you replenish those items. And until you do, you're putting that entire demand, which equates to 658,000 of sales, at risk. Now, doesn't mean you're going to lose a sale, but you're certainly at risk until you replenish. And again, I can see the top 5. These 5 items alone are putting you at risk of 236,000 of lost sales. So over a third of this entire problem is not 1,000 items, it's these 5. And then finally, heads up again, a little more proactive heads up. Here are some items that you are about to stock out of. These are items that have some inventory today, but we are projecting that before you can replenish, you will run out. And again, I might want to take some proactive action. I might want to move some items from one location to another. If it's an important enough item, I might want to overnight or expedite an order. But if you deal with it here, you can resolve it before it becomes a physical stock out. So day in the life of a planner, a purchasing manager, a production planner, an executive, I can come in, I can toggle between locations, but for any location, I can quickly see what my inventory is, what the planning tool recommends it should be, where do I have too much inventory, are there any orders that are going to add to that excess problem, what impact is it having on my business, which are the most critical that I need to pay some attention to. Are there any items I'm out of? Any items I'm about to run out of? What impact could that have on customer service or sales? Which are the most critical items that need my attention? Now, from here, you could do a lot of things. You might want to look at a few of the items that were brought to your attention, get some information, make some decisions, and we'll do just that. So all I have to do is select an item. And by simply clicking on an item, it will take me to the detail for that item. Now, I won't go through that in great detail, but let me just give you a quick tour. So I am looking at a single SKU. Now, this SKU with this description from NetSuite in Los Angeles. The first thing we're going to show you is what your current inventory is. And this particular item, you have 479 units in stock, 23 items that are on a sales order that have not yet been fulfilled, which brings your available stock to 456. Now, you have 555 units on purchase order, and that's going to bring your available stock then to 1,011. So that's what your inventory is. What's in stock, what's available, what's on order. But the power of the planning tool is to recommend what your inventory should be. And to do that, we're going to look at it through 2 dimensions. The first is demand. It's pretty hard to determine what your inventory stocking level should be unless you can project or forecast your demand. And that is one of the hardest things to do in a spreadsheet. You've got to download sales history. You've got to analyze it. You've got to select a forecasting algorithm. Which one do you pick? There's lots of them. Well, we're going to do that heavy lifting for you. So Netstock will automatically load the sales history for this item from this location. This item had 31 months of sales history, and that's represented graphically in blue. Well, Netstock is going to analyze that pattern in blue, and it's going to look for trends, spikes, outliers. Is there a pattern? Does it repeat itself? Is it a seasonal pattern? If there is no pattern, is it a simple moving average? So we will select the forecasting algorithm that is the best fit, and we will use that to create a computer-generated forecast for the next 12 months. So everything in this panel happened automatically. We loaded the sales history, analyzed it, selected the best fitting forecasting algorithm, and used it to create a computer-generated forecast. So a very robust forecast. And if you want to adjust that forecast, you certainly can. Now, the next thing that we're going to recommend is what is the minimum stock, we call it safety stock, that you should be carrying for this item. And the reason you want safety stock is things happen. Customers order more than you think. Suppliers don't deliver on time. They don't deliver the right quantity. So you want a buffer to protect you from stockouts in case something happens in delivery. Now, you can go into the item master and you can set manually a minimum stocking level for any item. But how did you calculate it? How often do you update it? Most of our customers tell us it's kind of a best guess, and they don't update it very often. Well, that tends to be the root cause of why you tend to over or under stock. So again, we're going to do that heavy lifting for you. And we're going to do it based on several very dynamic inputs. And one of those is, how important is this item to your business? Well, this item is an A item that's high turning. And if you remember from that first slide, we put a much higher fill rate target. We don't ever want to run out of an A item that's high turning. So we're going to drive a little larger investment in safety stock. Well, what is the lead time to get this item from the supplier? But more importantly, how does this supplier deliver against that lead time? Do they deliver on time? Do they deliver the right quantity? Because if they don't, you should increase your safety stock. So based on this item's importance to the business, the lead time, the supplier performance against that lead time, we're recommending that you should keep 29 days of this item as your minimum. What does that mean? I want to know how much of this item to stock and when to replenish. And that all comes together in this policy panel. And we're going to look at it in both days and units. So for example, lead time. We know our lead time is 90 days. We got that from NetSuite. But how many units of this SKU do you need to cover 90 days of lead time? Well, it depends on my forecast over there in yellow. So based on that forecast, you need 191 units to cover 90 days of lead time. You need 78 units to cover that 29 days of safety stock. So now in units, driven off the forecast, the item's importance to your business, supplier performance, here is your recommended min, reorder point, and max. And we calculate a min, a reorder point, and a max for every item, whether it's an item that you buy and resell, whether it's an item you make, whether it's a raw material that's driven off of a bill of material. We calculate that every day for every SKU at every location. And then we're going to compare it to what your current inventory is. Well, if you remember, we have 456 units of this item in stock right now. That is more than the maximum recommended stocking level. You are in an excess position. Not only are you in an excess position, but you've got a more immediate problem. You've got another 555 on order that's going to exacerbate that excess problem. So for just this one SKU, we're bringing to your attention that you have orders you don't need. In fact, 555. If at all possible, cancel or delay those orders. But the fundamentals are, we're going to show you what your inventory is from NetSuite. We're going to generate a forecast, recommend a safety stock, use that to calculate a min, a reorder point, and a max. If your inventory is above the max, it's going to get flagged as excess. If your inventory is below the reorder point, we're going to recommend you place an order on your supplier. If your inventory is below the demand over lead time, we're going to flag it, alert you that you're about to stock out of this item. So we do that every day for every item. And that is why this item is being brought to your attention under the panel surplus orders, because it is an item that you have open purchase orders that are going to exacerbate your excess problem. So heads up, red flag, if at all possible, cancel or delay those orders. So you'll be able to, so what we're doing then is we are using industry best practices to recommend stocking levels. We'll recommend what your inventory should be. We'll compare it to what it is. And then for every item, we are going to then summarize that on the dashboard. Here are the items that have the biggest impact to your business, the one that needs your attention the most. So the dashboard is a very tactical dashboard. It is designed by location to bring to your attention where you have problems right now. But one of the things many of our customers have asked for is they'd like to see a dashboard that is a little more strategic. In other words, tell me how my inventory has been performing over time. So if you notice on my menu item, we have what's called the executive dashboard. And we just rolled this out about 3 months ago. And every one of our customers, this is available to them. It was added at no charge, and they didn't have to upgrade anything. But what that is, it's a dashboard that has a little more strategic view. It is showing you by location how your inventory has been performing over time. So I can see how has my inventory value comparing to my recommended values. How's that been performing quarter to quarter? How has my excess inventory been trending? How have my fill rates been trending? Am I tending to get closer to my targets? Am I stocking out of the wrong items? And we're also going to look at it from the perspective of sales. Which items are contributing more to sales? Which items have the biggest gross margins? Which items are contributing most to your company? And it's going to give you just a real nice scorecard of how your inventory has been performing. So the executive dashboard is something that we added as more of a strategic dashboard to kind of look how my inventory has been performing over time. Now, again, back to the tactical dashboard. The purpose of the dashboard, again, is to bring to your attention the items that have issues or problems. And we have put a lot of effort into the last 6 to 12 months to enhance the tool to help you decide what to do with these problems. Hey, great, you have excess inventory. You have over 2,000 items just in Los Angeles that are in excess. What do I do about it? Well, one of the tools that we've added, this is actually our first entrance into artificial intelligence. And we've rolled that out under the opportunities menu item. This is also a feature that was added to the software and made available to all our customers at no charge, no upgrade required. And when I click on that opportunities button, that is going to pull up a ChatGPT look and feel that is going to give me some suggestions. And we've actually identified 22 items that AI has made some recommendations. And if I hit that show me button, it's going to pull up some examples. I could continue to look through this. But for instance, hey, here's some items that you have excess at one location. You're stocked out at this location. You might want to move some items from one location to another. So it's going to give you some visibility, some suggestions from an AI perspective on what you might want to do with some of those items that were brought to your attention on the dashboard. And that is our first entrance into AI, and that is only going to get better over time. Now, another area that we have had some feedback from our customers that they'd like to see some enhancements, and that is on the area of forecasting. So here is that same item that we were looking at. And the forecast that we generated over here on the right, we loaded the sales history, analyzed it, selected the best algorithm, and used it to create a computer-generated forecast. But that forecast is the total demand that is being placed on this SKU for this location. So in other words, based on all of my customers, all of my sales history across all of my channels, that is all of the demand that is being placed on this SKU at this location. Well, many of our customers have said, hey, we'd like to see a little more advanced forecasting engine. We would like to have a little more influence in the selection of the forecasting algorithm. What if we wanted to use a seasonal model? What if we wanted to use a cross-dance intermittent model? And so we now have the ability to override the recommended forecast algorithm. What if we don't want to forecast for just 12 months? What if we want to forecast for 24 months, 36 months, 48 months? During COVID, a lot of our lead times went way up and we needed to forecast beyond 12 months. And most importantly, what if we want to take that total demand and break it down into smaller attributes? We want to see what one customer's forecast on this item is, maybe change it, but not impact another customer. So maybe I sell this item to Walmart. Maybe I sell this item to Costco. Maybe Costco wants to change their forecast, but I don't want to change it for Walmart. So I could go in and I could change the forecast for Walmart, doesn't impact what I did for Costco, and then total that back up. And so we have introduced a new forecasting engine. Now this is an upgrade option, and it does have a fee associated with it. So if you want the more advanced engine, it is available for fee. But let me just give you a quick tour of that. So we call it Pivot Forecast, our Pivot Forecast Engine. Now it will display in Netstock exactly as it does here, but over here it will say Pivot. What that means is this is the engine under the hood that generated that forecast. And just real quick, again, this is probably a 2-hour demo into and unto itself, so I won't go through this in excruciating detail, but let me just give you a couple of the highlights. We have 3 major panels. The first is called Attributes, and that's how I can select what level of detail I want to forecast at. Now, underneath that is the result of those attributes. And then over here on the right is how do I want to display the forecast? And you have lots of panels to choose from. I've selected a sales history view. I've selected the future forecast view. I can see the forecast calculations and what model was selected. But over here on the left, the attributes, the standard forecast engine, we are just forecasting at the item level. In other words, what is the total demand placed on this item? But for this view of attributes, we've added item category and we've added customer name. So if I look at those level of attributes, this is what that results in. We're looking at customers. I have a customer called Better Buys. I have another customer called Direct Living. Now, the categories that Direct Living buys, they buy backyard barbecues. They buy items in the category cooktops, ovens, ranges, and ventilation hoods. But for the category called barbecues, here are all of the SKUs that Direct Living buys. But what I can do is I can change the forecast at a SKU level, but it would only be for this category of items and just for Direct Living. So if I come up to Better Buys, I would see the same list of items and I could change the forecast for that, but it wouldn't have any impact on the forecast for Direct Living. So I can change a forecast from the bottom up, which will impact the, in this case, the category and the customer. I can change the forecast at the customer level and it'll blow that down to all of the items, but that would have no impact on Better Buys. So I can slice, dice, look at different attributes, change the forecast for one attribute, but not another, and then it would assemble back to that final forecast. Now, I can also come in and change that expert model. Maybe I want to override that. Expert picked a level, trend, seasonal. And in this case, maybe I wanted to override that. For some reason, I wanted to pick the forecasting algorithm. So 99% of the time, you're going to want the expert model to pick that for you. But once in a while, you might want to override that. And with the pivot forecasting engine, you can. So we have a forecast upgrade option. It is called pivot forecasting. It is a more advanced forecast engine that would allow you to get under the hood a little bit deeper. Again, I can change the attributes. I can look at customer. I could look at channel. I could look at item category. I could change and reassemble for those differences and then assemble it back together. But in any event, the final forecast is what's going to go back to Netstock as the forecast that then is going to drive the rest of the inventory replenishment calculations. So what comes back here then was generated based on the capabilities of the pivot forecast engine, but that final forecast will still do exactly what we talked about before. It'll recommend a min, a reorder point, a max, which will then recommend replenishment levels. So our standard forecast engine is a very good forecast engine. And for most people that are trying to forecast in a spreadsheet, it is a phenomenal upgrade from a spreadsheet. It is a very good forecast engine. But some of our customers want to take it a little bit further, and they want to break that down into smaller attributes, have more influence on the forecast, in which case you might want to look at our pivot forecast engine. So let's go back to the dashboard. So again, the dashboard is designed to bring to your attention where you have issues or problems. So for instance, in Los Angeles, you have excess stock. In fact, you have over 2,000 items that are in excess, and it's costing your business $3.6 million. And I can see this entire list of excess inventory. I can look at just the top 5, but this is a problem for someone to solve. Ideally, you want to get rid of that excess inventory. You want to burn it down. Maybe you can move it to another location. But often you have a fireside sale. Let's put a low sale on this and let's get rid of that because I want to free up that working capital. But it is a daunting task to burn that down. Well, one of the things that we've developed, and this just rolled out on April 1st of this year, is, hey, Netstock, wouldn't it be helpful if you could tell me what of this excess inventory do I need at another location that may not have enough? In other words, where can I move the excess inventory from Los Angeles to any other of my locations that are either low or about to stock out so that I could move the inventory, reduce the excess inventory and free up the working capital in Los Angeles, eliminate the stock out at another location and delay the purchase of those items at that other location. So it's a win-win-win. And so we have rolled out what we call the excess redistribution module. And if I hit this orders button, one of the choices I have is I can look at, show me all of the excess inventory in Los Angeles and tell me where can I send it. So for instance, here is an item in Los Angeles. We have 20 available. There are 20 excess in Los Angeles. And right now I could move that to New York. In fact, New York needs 45. So we can take that 20 and we are recommending that you move that 20 to New York. And if I agree to this, that will generate a transfer order in NetSuite. Here's another item that you have 58 units in excess in Los Angeles. And I am short on this item in New York by 1 unit, in Chicago by 3 units, and I'm short on this item in Detroit by 1 unit. So we're recommending that you move 1 item to New York, 3 items to Chicago, and 1 item to Detroit. Here's one where I have 20 items in Los Angeles that are in excess. New York needs 13, so we're recommending you move all 13. So there are actually 229 SKUs that are in Los Angeles that we are recommending that you move from Los Angeles to any one of those other 3 locations that are short on those items. So you can review the recommendations by Netstock, you could make adjustments or changes. But when I hit this button right here, that's going to send that as a file over to NetSuite and the transfer orders will be created. So I'm rebalancing that excess inventory from Los Angeles and moving it to the locations that need it. And again, what that's going to do is it's going to eliminate that excess inventory in Los Angeles and free up working capital. and it's going to eliminate the stockouts or potential stockouts of those items at those other locations and delay purchase orders on the suppliers. And our estimate is that will save you $289,000. So again, the ROI on this is just off the charts. But that's where, hey, I want to move some excess inventory from one location to another. Let's go back to that dashboard. And hey, on the dashboard, if you notice, I also have some items that I am stocked out of. Hey, there's some items in Los Angeles that I have no inventory. And right now there's demand on those items that I can't fulfill. Now, I can certainly place orders on my supplier, but that might take 90 days to get here, depending on my lead time. So I could be stocked out for a long time. So again, Netstock, help me out. Is there excess at any other location that I could move from those locations into Los Angeles? And that excess redistribution is going to work from that perspective as well. And so what we're saying here is, hey, for Los Angeles, are there any locations that have inventory that are in excess at those locations that I could move to Los Angeles? So for instance, here is a SKU. And right now I need 302 in Los Angeles. I am short 302. But hey, Detroit has 170 available that are in excess. Chicago has 191 that are in excess, and New York has 88. So I don't even need all of those. We're recommending you move 170 from Detroit to Los Angeles and 132 from Chicago to Los Angeles. Now, if you wanted to reduce that and maybe move some from New York, you certainly could. But those warehouses would make more sense to move than New York, just based on the cost of shipping. Here's another one where I'm short 70 in Los Angeles, but Detroit has some excess, Chicago has some excess, New York has some excess, and we're actually recommending you move 37 and 33 from Detroit and Chicago respectively. And I have over 170 SKUs that I am short in Los Angeles, but that I have excess at another location, and we are recommending that you move those items from those locations into Los Angeles. And what that means then is I can review those, I can edit those, I can change those, but when I hit that download button, that is going to execute a file transfer from Netstock to NetSuite that will create the transfer orders that you can release in NetSuite. And what that's going to do again is it's going to reduce that excess inventory at those remote locations, freeing up that working capital. It's going to move that into the location that I'm short of those items, which will eliminate those stockouts and improve customer service and sales. And most importantly, delay having to place those items on order new from the supplier. And for the movement of those items from the remote locations to Los Angeles, we're estimating that's going to save you $121,000. So again, this just rolled out on April 1st. It's already been wildly popular, and many of our installed customers are looking at this. And we're certainly adding that to any new customers that are looking at Netstock new for the first time. We want to showcase this capability as well. But again, the summary is we are going to help you eliminate your excess inventory. We're going to reduce stockouts, which will improve customer service and sales. So if I can identify the items that are in excess and eliminate those, I will free up working capital. If I can eliminate those stockouts, I will improve customer service and sales. And if I can save time, so again, kind of that same slide we looked at before, that's going to increase the visibility on your inventory. It's going to improve your fill rate, which is when you need an item, you have anticipated it either by placing an appropriate purchase order on your supplier in advance or moving an item from another location that doesn't need it, and I will reduce stockouts. We will, by eliminating that excess inventory, you'll free up that working capital, and by saving time so that your planners, again, this will never replace the knowledge or expertise that your planners have. But what it'll do is it'll help focus their time and attention on the items that need your attention instead of trying to figure that out in the first place in a spreadsheet. And if you can reduce that excess inventory, if you can reduce stockouts, and if you can save time, the ROI on this tool as a whole is quite substantial. In fact, we've got lots of customer success stories. I would encourage you to go out to our website. There's a customer case study. Here is just an example of one of them. And this individual was able to reduce their excess inventory by 35% and improve their fill rate by 3%. So what would it mean to your business if you could eliminate 35% of your excess inventory and you could improve your fill rate by 3%? you would free up that working capital, and you would improve the customer service levels. So I'm just about right on the 40 minutes. So Doug, why don't we pull you back in? Want to be thoughtful of time here?
Yeah, great, Tom. Thank you so much for that. I know, having been through several Netstock demonstrations prior, that was a rapid tour, but very much appreciate the overview. We will be publishing a blog post and a copy of this demo on our website, subject to your review here over the next couple of days. So that'll be available. Watch for that. And wanted to, as I mentioned before, in the month of May, we will have 360 Cloud Solutions and their recurring billing capability featured as our next partner spotlight on May 16th. And then in the month of June, we will have the Cantata, which is the old Mavenware solution, featured on June 27th. Again, Tom, thank you for your time and the overview of Netstock. For those in attendance, watch for the blog post and the demo when we get that posted. And we thank you for your time and attention. We'll send you back, Tom, to your day. And for those in attendance, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, Tom, if you could hit the next slide, please forward those either directly to my attention, if you have that, or to sales@meridianbusiness.com, and we will be sure to either forward those to Tom or answer them directly if they're for Meridian's response. Anyway, Tom, again, thank you, and we are concluded. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thank you.